Okay, so your waistband is done, and now it's time to look at the bottom of the pants. So try the pair of pants on again, and have a friend fold it and pin it to the height that you would like for it to sit at. You know, just a little above the ground. You've already pre-shrunk the fabric, so it shouldn't shrink from here. So as I said, just fold it and use the safety pin, and then what you're going to do is you're going to unfold it, and there's two little holes from the safety pin here and two little holes from the safety pin here, and I kind of pinched it before I took the safety pin out so I could see that there was a bit of a crease right here, and I'm just using a fabric pen that either washes out or presses out, and I'm going to just make a little bit of a marking right in between. And there it is again. I was hoping to maybe get it so that you could see it a little bit better. See that marking right there? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to measure from that marking to the edge of my fabric. And I'm going to just maybe write that measurement down. And I've put a little note here to kind of tell you what I'm doing, just in case it gets a little confusing when I explain it. But here's that line, the first line that I made. So there's that full measurement. So this is going to be the final hem length. So this is where the fold is going to finish when I'm all said and done here. So I've got a lot to cut off, okay? But I don't want to cut all of it off because I want a nice finish fold here. So what I'm going to do is from this line, I'm going to measure down 2 inches, okay? So here's where I'm going to cut and zigzag or use my serger, and then I'm going to take that cut and zigzag edge and I'm going to fold it up over here, and I'm going to fold it and then fold it again, just so it's not nice and neat and tidy. So again, if you can read it here, this is my final hem length fold, here's my first fold line, and here's where I'm going to cut and use the zigzag or serger. So there, I'm going to mark that on both pairs of pants. So I've just got a little cut to show you, and I've measured what that is, and for me that's 3 inches. And let's see if you can see that edge of the fabric there. Yeah. So measured down, so it's 3 inches, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to measure that on all along the edge of the bottom of my pants. So there I am. I'm measuring it here, measuring it there, and I'm just going to mark it all the way along, and then I'm going to cut along that line. And I'm going to do that to both pairs of pants. And there's those excess scrap pieces, and I'm going to use those for practice. Either practice on the serger or practice doing my overcast stitch, or the zigzag stitch if I'm a little unsure of how to do that. But definitely keep them for practice. And there I am. I'm saying use these strips of fabric for practice. So if you feel confident after you practice with those tubes of fabric that you've cut off the bottom of your pants, and you don't have any concerns or worries, then feel free to use the serger. And if you try the serger and you're finding that you're cutting into the fabric and you're having a hard time with it, then just use your sewing machine and put it on a zigzag. So here's the steps for using the serger. So what I'm going to do is I put the pant leg on here, and I'm just zooming in here for you so you can see. Here's that cutter. Now before I had wanted to sew 5/8, but now I don't want to do that. This is the finished edge. I just want to create a nice overcast stitch to stop it from fraying here. So this is a knife, and I'm just lining that edge up with the edge of my fabric. So I'm not going to cut anything off, and it's just going to make a nice overcast to the edge of it. So that's what's happening over here. It's finishing off the edge really nice, and as you can see on the bottom, let's see if I can zoom in there for you. It's kind of hard to get it in there. Right there. There's just a few tiny little scraps. Basically, I'm not cutting anything off at all. Just running along the edge of that fabric. Okay? And then when I get to where I began, I want to slope it off in a way, so I'm not going to cut what I've just done, and you can see that it creates a bit of a wide zigzag until it just runs off of it. And I'm going to create a nice long tail again, and I'm going to cut it in half and then knot it just like I've done before. Now, if I wasn't confident when I tested it and I was too scared to use the serger, your other option is the sewing machine to use the zigzag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on C, and that's my zigzag, and I'm just going to take it to the edge of the fabric, and I'm going to put it on a fairly wide stitch, 3 or 3.5, and then I'm just going to run around the edge of the fabric, and it's going to do the same thing. It's going to stop it from fraying, and there's no problem with doing this. In fact, if you don't have a serger, this is how you would treat the edge. And that's what it will look like if you decide to use a zigzag stitch. Still nice, neat, and tidy. And that's what it'll look like if you use a serger. So you're going to take this and you're going to bring it over to your ironing table, and you're going to fold it over so that it reaches the mark that you had, that you wanted to have it reach. So here I am. And I've measured what that is because it might not be exactly 1 inch, so you want to just kind of measure what that mark is for you and set your gauge to that. And then you're going to run around the whole pant leg, measuring and folding it and pressing it as you go. And so that's what I've done here. I've just used a sleeve board because it was easier, because I could like rotate it, and since it's a fairly narrow opening. And then once it's all done, you can see that it's consistent all the way along, and I'm ready to sew it. So I take it over to my sewing machine. This is A, which is the straight stitch. And I'm going to line it up with the edge of my presser foot, and I'm just going to do a very narrow kind of stitch here. I've moved my needle over as far as it will go, and I sewed all the way along, and then I'm just going to move my needle placement again from that. It was at 0, and now I'm going to just kind of move it over, and so you can see this is where I was stitching, and now I'm going to stitch just a little bit over, and so you can see here it'll be nice and close together, and it's going to look really professional. And so there it is, that double row of stitching. You can see on the good side of the fabric looks really good. And I'm at the beginning of the video. So at this point, you will have finished your hem on both of your pant legs, and your pants are pretty much done. There's just one more step. If you haven't done it already, it's about reinforcing the crotch area of the pants, and that'll be in the next video.